Ladies and gentlemen, today's featured segment is presented to you by Radioactive Redhead. From Book 2 of the Warlock series, author Mike Bennett brings to life tales from distant lands, detailing the undertakings of special operators as they pursue an Iranian-funded menace. Operators roam from Kurdistan to Pakistan, and no stone is left unturned in Turkey. Will justice be brought to close the ledger for the tragic 1983 Beirut bombing? Join us as we present to you When Towers Fall.
Chapter 20. One of the first things Jack had wanted to do was to have his camera gear sent to him. With this task, he had planned on killing two birds with one stone. Via his satellite phone, he asked for a diplomatic pouch to be sent to Tbilisi with his gear, and the DIA attaché to drive it over to the border to, of all places, Dhaka Stalina, a former Stalin Dhaka that was now a tourist attraction. For the purposes of asset validation, Jack wanted Stoli's elder yardmaster to receive the equipment at a specific location, drive to a specific route to meet Stoli, and then return back to the rail yard. Only Jack would know if he had slipped a GPS tracker under the yardmaster's bumper, which he would then retrieve and plot the GPS breadcrumbs to see if he followed instructions. Crude but expedient. Jack was also vetting Stoli just a bit, to see if he would stop off for a nip. Trust but verify. For future consideration, Jack also wanted to see if the attaché's tradecraft was a clown show. With the gear that they needed, Jack and Stoli started heading north to their target area. They drove up along the coast along E97, where the operatives were treated to some of the most pristine beauty on this earth. Cliffs dropped down to a sea that churned and frothed as storks and raptors swooped down to skim along the pebbly shore. The two came to conclusions that the distance from Sochi to Apna was too far away to be of any logistical value, so they headed east to Krasnodar. Krasnodar had facilities they sought: warehouses, post boxes, apartments, telecommunication services, vehicle maintenance, but with the advantage of relative proximity. Sochi provided some cover because of the Olympics, and that was sufficient to fly into the airport. Once in country, any follow-on operations would have to migrate away from Sochi to be effective. As the pilot team, Jack was reasonably satisfied with their initial run. Before the two split at the airport, Jack offered, "Listen, Stoli, great job, but if you are serious about stopping drinking, you might benefit from some counseling and a 12-step program. This is something my organization can help with if you want to stay on the team." Stoli looked Jack right in the eye. "Jack, I think I could use that help. Sign me up." Chapter 21. He recalled a discussion with Vladimir Putin, who was a black belt in judo. Putin had described the principle of puzushi, or breaking balance. In terms of throwing an opponent, the judo practitioner first had to get the opponent's body into the proper position to apply the technique. In terms of Syria, Soleimani viewed the entire civil war and its public atrocities as a means to keep America distracted while Iran pursued a nuclear weapon. And Obama was too happy to oblige. Civil war raged in Syria, and the Russians, chomping at the bit to support the Syrian government, retained its base at the Med of Tartarus. Some upstart called ISIS is regurgitating the hatred Soleimani had infused in Iraq. The latest creation he commissioned to Hezbollah to put everyone on notice in Lebanon, the hand of Quds force is not withdrawn, it has not diminished. On the 27th of December 2013, the car bomb he had commanded targeted a convoy in the central district of Beirut to assassinate Mohammed Shattah, a critic of Hezbollah and a former U.S. ambassador. Shattah, ISIS, Syrian civil war, Arab Spring. Soleimani was callous, detached like a cat playing with a mouse. No matter. Keep the great Satan distracted. Let them rage on Twitter. Boost the shiny object syndrome fetish by dangling the promise of quixotic exploits against which they will fruitlessly tilt. Only the sanctity of a Shia implementation of Islam will save the Middle East from burning. Iran had held the key to that dream, held it tightly in Natanz, in Fordo, in Arak, and other pits of venom from which a deadly titan would spawn. Iran would soon have a nuclear weapon, and they would obliterate Israel as Iran had promised in 1979. Some chanted, "Death to America, death to Israel." Soon the doubters would feel the wrath of the Iranian power unleash in vengeance. To this he pledged his life.
If this preview broadcast has piqued your curiosity, the book in its entirety will be available for purchase from Amazon.com. Simply search When Towers Fall by Mike Bennett and peruse a catalog of its latest works. Be sure to tune in to Radioactive Redhead to hear further excerpts from the Warlock series. This concludes today's featured segment from Radioactive Redhead. May your days be filled with good memories and laughter, and God bless.